the question that I have for you today is, here we go again. Are you tired of your own bullshit? And are you ready to love yourself enough to do something about it? That's what we're going to tackle today in just a little bit of time, just a few minutes, about half an hour or so. So it is Valentine's Day, the day that this is going live. And I just want you to know that whenever you happen to be listening to this, whether it's current, present time, it's Valentine's Day 2024 when I'm doing this, or sometime in the future, this applies and it is relevant and applicable information. So the reason that I ask that, are you tired of your own bullshit? It's because that is the point that I have gotten to several times for different aspects of my life, where I get to that point where I'm tired of my excuses. I'm tired of beating myself up. I'm tired of not seeing results and feeling like a failure or whatever it is. I have gotten to that point so many, and I shouldn't say like so many times, but several times. And I realize that on some, on those instances, that is when I actually made changes. That's when I realized, well, this bullshit that I'm tired of is no longer serving me. I mean, to the extreme, like letting things go to where it was, kind of like definitely a tipping point. Like I'm going to go down into the bucket of despair, so to speak, or I'm going to do something about it because I know that those are the consequences. So kind of getting to that point where it was my personal bottom. Nothing ever destructive or physically dangerous, granted, in my case, but on whatever level, I'm sure you at least maybe can resonate or are familiar or can think maybe of a specific example or two or a few in your life where you had that thought, that thinking, or you just said it or wrote it out loud, that I am tired of this and things have got to change, where it was like, sink or swim type of situation. And so I noticed, or I realized that is when I did make changes. That is when I started doing the hard things, had the hard realizations, right? Like the taking accountability. And so along that thinking, I was like, why does it have to get to the point where I'm tired of it, where I'm at that sink or swim? So that's where I started doing this, it's been a long time, several years that I've been doing this personal development and that type of having that type of focus or that type of influence in my life. And I started thinking and realizing, and kind of over a period of time, why does it have to get to that sink or swim, to that rock bottom place before changes are made? Why can't I, or why haven't I? Because can't is not accurate, because I absolutely can. And so can you. But why haven't I made changes before getting to this point? And through, again, this ongoing process of working on myself and learning about myself and improving myself, I started to realize that in order to make changes, in order to do things differently, in order to get results that I haven't or hadn't been getting, that it really came down to loving myself enough to do the things that didn't feel comfortable, to do the things that didn't feel easy, that, felt hard or intimidating or awkward or uncomfortable before I got to that sink or swim. And the way that I was able and have been able and is now the way I approach things is, if I'm having a hard time and I'm not taking the steps that I want, and I'm not doing the things that I know will benefit me, or that at least will give me information or clarity or insight, and I'm repeating these patterns, it's like, okay, I need to go back and find out why I'm not loving myself enough here. What is the story? What is the judgment or the belief or the punishment that I am self-inflicting, right? Because no one is doing it to me. It is all about myself. And that's something that I want to let you guys know, that that is the core of everything. It is all really about us. It's up to us to make the changes. It's up to us to take the actions. It's up to us to not take our own bullshit anymore, right? It is up to us, and it starts with us. The change, getting the results, the improved relationships, the different circumstances. It starts with you for yourself, and it starts with me for myself. And so coming back to that starting point, I need to start with myself, look at what I'm not doing and what I am doing, what's working, what's not working, and why, and give myself that grace and that love to make the changes, and having that taking accountability for my own actions, my own decisions, my own results, with the energy of love, loving myself and saying, hey, maybe you knew better and you didn't do better. And at the same time, you can do better now. And so that was a little bit more long-winded than I planned. So what I want to get into next is an example. So an example that actually came from an event that I was at yesterday. So I had this topic planned for this episode previously, and I just love how the universe and how life happens, so that it gives you a perfect example, or things just work out perfectly, because I was going to do this topic anyway. But this story, or this example from an event I was at yesterday is perfectly applicable here. I was at a networking event with a girlfriend of mine. Actually, two girlfriends of mine were there, and one had to leave a little earlier. So two of us were there. And it was for a local city, like a chamber of commerce of a local city had a networking event. And so there's businesses there. There's, entrepreneurs, business owners, all sorts of different types of people. And we were meeting at a restaurant. So we got to eat and have some good food on top of it. So, but the person, my friend that I was with, she has, one of the people at the networking event was her trainer, her personal trainer. And in talking, because I had not met him before, and that's the beauty of networking events as well. You meet different types of people and learn their stories and learn about them and their businesses. So he is a personal trainer. And what I learned through talking to him, he used to be an ice skater, and now he's a personal trainer. So I just really love, this is a total side note, but I love getting to know people's stories. And it's just fascinating, the twists and the paths and the ways people's lives work out, and how all aspects of their life kind of congeal to creating their circumstances and their histories and experience and all that. So that was another little side tangent. But what he said as a personal trainer, when we're talking about it, he's like, I don't believe, or he says, adults, this is how he said it as I'm looking at my notes, adults don't need to be made to feel like they're getting in trouble for something, right? So like that, like in his example, my friend was talking to him and says, oh, I'm like eating all this really decadent food. And he's like, that's okay. You simply make changes after the fact. You give yourself grace and you enjoy yourself now, and then you do something to compensate or to get back on track after the fact. But there is absolutely no benefit in beating yourself up. There is no benefit in making yourself feel like you're going to get in trouble, because at least from my experience, and I used to work with kids as a one-on-one aide in an elementary school, getting in trouble does not really get the results from a healthy or a good place. Yes, it might get results or change behaviors from a place of fear, or yes, like that, not wanting to get in trouble, but it's not authentic, right? It's not because they're doing it or not doing it because they want to. It's to avoid the punishment or to avoid the circumstance. And so that conversation that we were having got me to thinking about the topic that we're talking about today, in loving yourself enough to get over, your own BS and make the changes that you want, that are different from what you're experiencing or what you have been experiencing in the past. And so not only adults, but like I said, kids as well. We as people do not need to be made like we're going to get in trouble. There is a difference, I believe, from being made like we're going to get in trouble and knowing that there are consequences to our actions or to our inactions. There are results that we will achieve or will not achieve based on the decisions we make and the actions we do and don't take. And now that doesn't take away from the fact that, yes, if you do something bad, there's going to be consequences, but that leads more into accountability, self-awareness, taking responsibility for your actions by having those consequences, experiencing those consequences. And that, I think, is a completely different feeling than you're going to get in trouble and judging yourself. So in this vein of talking about, are you ready to get past and to get over your own bullshit and love yourself enough to make changes? This is where it starts as far as moving forward. There's stuff that we might have to uncover and identify from the past, maybe, but there is nothing, absolutely nothing prohibiting you from taking steps now to make changes and get results without having fully addressed the things from the past or the old stories. It can happen concurrently. It can also happen. You can start making the changes and seeing the results and then realizing where the stories come from along the way. So what I mean by loving yourself enough to make the changes, to do things differently, is that you're going to have to, and we're all going to. So like I said, I've learned these lessons and I have no doubt will continue to learn these lessons as I go in other areas of my life and reaching new levels or kind of revisiting lessons that I have already learned. Loving ourselves enough to know that we need to do the hard things. We need to do the things that don't feel fun. We need to do the things we know are going to move us forward, but they feel hard. Or man, it takes too much energy. Or I'll get to it. Because the thing, like I started talking about at the beginning of the episode, instead of getting to that point, to that sink or swim point, or that rock bottom where changes have to be made, in order to circumvent that, to make changes before reaching that point, this is where that self-love comes in and saying, okay, I have things in my life or about myself or my circumstances or experiences that I want to change. And that change can be changing them completely. It can be just turning them around. It can be also having more or amplifying the good things that you have and actually attracting and allowing yourself to have and experience more of it. Because believe it or not, we keep ourselves a lot of the time from having and experiencing more of the things that are good because we tell ourselves, because we've been conditioned to, that you should be happy with what you've got. You did this. Who are you to want more? There isn't enough for everyone to go around. You should be happy with the level that you achieved. And that is also bullshit because there is more than enough to go around. There is plenty for everyone to have what they want. Things do need to change in certain aspects, things that we do, practices, that's a whole other tangent and side road to go off of or go down. But absolutely, everyone can have all the good in their life. And so in order to avoid getting to that sink or swim, it starts with loving yourself enough to do the hard shit now. And it doesn't have to be all in. Starting with the baby steps is also something that I have learned is key. because I have realized recently that I've learned all these things, right? I know, so to speak, know all these things about personal development. I know all these things about changing circumstances. And I know all these things about becoming the person who is living the life that I desire. What I also realize is because I know it is not enough. Because I know the information is not enough. I also, just like everyone else, need to experience all the steps along the way. Simply because I know, because I have been coached, because I have taken workshops, because I have done the work on myself, I fully know that I am capable of increasing my income beyond anything that either myself or anyone in my family has earned before. I fully know that. Now, the fact that I know that does not mean I'm automatically going to jump to that level from where I am because I know it. I also still have to go through the steps. I also still have to experience each level along the way to get to that. I'm not going to, leapfrog from here to there simply because I know it's possible. Knowing it's possible is the thing to start with. And then that guides me to taking the steps instead of sitting here, oh, I know this, so why isn't it happening? That's another way of beating myself up. That's another way. See, our brains are so tricky. They're so good at twisting the story and skewing our perspective to try and keep us safe. Safe according to, what it feels, keeping us safe, which is not doing new things, not doing scary things, not putting ourselves in scary situations. But loving ourselves enough to put ourselves in that scary situation is how we go through the steps. So doing the hard things, whatever aspect of your life you want to start with or that you're currently working on. Health, the major, there's 7 or 8. I'm probably not going to be able to name all of them, but like finances, health, relationships, work, or employment, how you spend the majority of your day, because I fully believe, even though I'm not a mom, that stay-at-home moms have more than a full-time job. So like that's work, that's your job. If you are a stay-at-home mom, full-time mom, that's your job. Even if you're not going to an office, your office is with you all the time. You live your office. So those are the areas, right? So finances, fun, relationships. So there's several main aspects of our life. So whatever of those or any of those that you're working on, taking the small steps, starting with the steps that we know we need to do. And another way that our brain tricks us, so to speak, is like, okay, we know this first step, but we really can't take that step. This is, let's pretend our brain, a conversation or something that our brain is trying to make us believe. We know the first step. Okay, cool. But we don't know what comes after that. So we have to do research, or we have to do more learning, or we have to do more finding out until we know all the steps, and then we can start back at step 1. No, that's more of our own BS coming from our brain. You know the first step, start with that. And then you'll get information, whether that was good, indifferent, not the right step, then take a different step. Right? So loving yourself enough to say, I know I don't know all the steps, and I know, brain, that you are trying to help me, but I'm going to do this anyway. And what I just said there is actually a form of loving ourselves, telling our brain or telling our ego, or however you choose to look at it, our, judgy self, our mean girl, our, our devil on our shoulder, whatever it is, saying, I know you are trying to protect me. So thank you. And I love you for that. I'm also going to choose to do something different that is a little scary. So instead of beating yourself up or leaning into those judgments or those fears that are keeping you from taking those steps, why not say, thank you, I love you, and I'm going to do this anyway. it kind of feels like you're having a conversation with another person, even though it's an aspect of yourself. But it's also that aspect of feeling like you're having a conversation with another person that almost makes it easier. Because it's much easier to say to someone, I love you so much, and this needs to happen. Or I love you, and thank you for that feedback, and I'm also going to try it myself, right? So avoiding getting to that sink or swim point or that rock bottom where change has to be made. Start with, okay, I see the things that are holding me back. I see and recognize the stories I'm telling myself. And I'm going to say it's okay that I've been telling myself those stories. I'm going to do something different anyway. I'm going to start loving myself enough to make the changes that need to be made so that I experience and have and live the life and circumstances that I want. Because going back to what I said about what the trainer at the networking event says, how adults don't need to be made to, like they're getting in trouble, that's not beneficial. And so this is also a way that you can nurture and love your inner child, because I'm guessing a lot, not necessarily all, but a lot of the stories that we're telling ourselves, like, oh, we can't do this, and we're judging ourselves and beating ourselves up because we didn't do it, are things that we were told or heard or experienced when we were younger. So our inner child is still holding on to those stories. So if you love yourself enough to take the steps, you are also loving and nurturing your inner child at the same time. And you can dive into that a whole lot more as well. But all these things are within us and separate. Like they're separate events, but they're all part of your history and my history and experiences. And you don't have to do all the healing before you can achieve results. You don't have to figure everything out and, know all your traumas and stories and before you can see results and make changes and start experiencing the things that you love. Because of course, it kind of feels backwards, but by experiencing the things that we want, by achieving those levels, we are also healing and nurturing those stories, even if we're not aware of them. And then we are in a place to become aware of them and heal them without judging ourselves, because we've already worked on loving ourselves. It's like this infinite circle. It's like this maze, like an infinity and 8. And you can try to talk yourself out of it. You can try to spin it, your brain, your ego, whatever, yourself can try to spin it a different way. It is all interconnected and at separate points of the infinity or the circle or the loop or whatever it is. So it's all there together. Start taking the small steps, knowing that we need to, go through all the levels to get to the big ones. And a big lesson that I have had to learn and repeat to myself is taking each step, taking baby steps, or going back to the beginning so that I can work through this process does not mean it has to take a long time. That's what I was telling myself, that, if I know all these things, because I've been coached or because I have, the knowledge, then I should be able to jump to the end. Well, no, I still have to experience all the steps, but it doesn't have to take a long time. But telling myself it was going to take a long time if I worked through all the steps is what made me want to jump to the end, when I'm not going to get results by trying to jump to the end. I have to run the whole race. I have to take all the steps. I have to go through all the levels, however it is that I need to tell myself that. And it doesn't have to take a long time. But what takes longer is not learning the lessons, staying stuck in that, beat yourself up, try to willpower your way through, beat yourself up, judge yourself, for failing. And it simply starts with loving yourself and starting to love yourself enough to make the changes, and knowing that it's going to be hard at times, knowing that it's not all, bubblegums and roses. I don't even know if that's a good, I don't know where that combo came from. Bubblegum and roses. I don't know. Champagne and roses. It's not all that. A rose is a beautiful, beautiful thing. It is the flower, and I think maybe even the thing that has the highest vibration, like that love vibration, but roses have thorns. Roses have thorns. And it is, like that highest vibration or such a beautiful creation, and they have thorns. So life can be a rose and have thorns. It's part of the process. So taking the small steps, doing the hard things, and even when they're not fun. And the hard things that move you in the direction that you want. The hard things that get you closer, that yes, might feel uncomfortable. Yes, might feel challenging. Yes, might feel awkward, but are moving you in that direction. Hard things doesn't necessarily mean have to be like physically hard or emotionally hard. It's just, it feels hard. We're telling ourselves it feels hard. So I kind of feel like I'm at that point where I'm starting to just kind of weave through the loop or the infinity in different ways. So I'm going to stop because I have gone through each of my talking points, and it is, don't beat yourself up. And to keep from getting to that sink or swim or things have to change point before things change, love yourself enough to acknowledge your own bullshit and do things differently. And it starts by being kind with yourself and taking small steps, starting with small steps, and they build on each other. And no one needs to get in trouble. We're not going to benefit by getting in trouble. And at the same time, it's important that we know there are consequences and results to our actions or inactions. Good results, good consequences, and undesired results and undesired consequences, right? I don't like to say bad because that feels like getting in trouble. So desired results, undesired, known, unknown. It's two sides of the same coin. But we need to start and be kind to yourself. So like I said, I don't know if on the live version, I don't know if it might be on the edited out part for the podcast episode, but I said that I pulled 2 cards today just to kind of give me something to leave you guys with. And I pulled the cards from 2 separate decks. The first deck is, which order did I pull them in? Yes. The first deck is Crazy Sexy Love Notes by Chris Carr. And if you're not watching this on video, I will link the information wherever you're listening to it, around the podcast notes, the show notes. So the first card was from Crazy Sexy Love Notes. And that card is You Are Loved, right? You are loved. And so the message that this, tying it to my topic of today is, even if you're not at the point where you don't love yourself yet enough to make changes, you are loved by others. You are loved by me. You are loved by the universe or spirit, or however you choose to address it. You are loved by family. You are loved by friends. You might even, I'm guessing you're loved by strangers, that you don't know who they are, in the sense of like loving humanity. So you are loved. And if you don't yet love yourself enough, other people do love you, whether you're aware of it or not. And if you don't have the experience of a loving childhood, like, I talked about the inner child, if you don't have that experience, you can go back and imagine what it would have felt like, what it would be like to be that child receiving and knowing you are loved, because that's how you are nurturing your child and doing that work. So you are loved no matter if you don't yet, or if you are not yet at the point where you instinctually and automatically and unconditionally love yourself. So maybe that is a great starting point, knowing that you are loved. And the second card I pulled was from the Sacred Self-Care Oracle deck. And the card that I pulled for that was Take a Walk. And so with these 2 cards together, the You Are Loved is the message that you are loved, and loving yourself enough to make the changes is the direction, is the path, instead of beating yourself up, instead of judging yourself or making yourself feel like you're in trouble. And take a walk can be the activity that helps you see that. You can ruminate about it. So taking a walk every day, even if it's around the block, for those of you like myself who work from home, and I have not fully implemented this, I have done it a few times and it does make a difference. So I invite you to use this as your self-care activity, because it was from the self-care cards. So if you work from home or you need to have a way of distinguishing, when you're done with work or when you're done with one thing and moving on to the next thing, take a walk around the block and imagine yourself as you leave and walk out. You're walking away from work. You're leaving it behind. It is the end of work. And as you come around the block or your loop or however you do it, as you're coming back home, you're walking towards the next thing. You're walking towards, family time or dinner time or whatever it is, just not work time. This same practice can be applied to if you're having a hard moment, a difficult conversation, you need a break, walk out the door and around the block or around your loop or even around your house. Walk around your house or your apartment building, whatever the case is. But as you walk out, you are walking away from that circumstance, leaving the undesired emotions, feelings, energies behind, letting them go as you're walking away. And as you're walking back, you are approaching with a new outlook, with new energy. You're walking back to a refreshed or a calmed down or a new or whatever it is case situation. That act of taking a walk can have so many different aspects to it. And so if there's other ways that you see this, like walking away from something and walking back towards something else by simply walking around your house or walking around your block or your building or your loop, if you let me know. What is the thing that you can see yourself walking away from and then walking back towards in this process of taking a walk as self-care, not necessarily only for exercise purposes, but as self-care? What can you walk away from and then walk back towards that is different from what you were walking away from? It's so powerful and so simple to do. So that is what I have for you guys today. If you're listening to this anytime around February 14th of any year, happy Valentine's Day. If not, still love yourself enough. You do not have to wait for Valentine's Day. You don't have to wait for any particular day. Just a new day, a new minute, a new second, whatever, a new hour is perfectly good. Works just as fine, wonderfully to start loving yourself enough to get over your own bullshit and make the changes to get past it and no longer deal with it. So thank you guys. I look forward to seeing you next week. And if you have topics that you would like to have me talk about or have conversations about, email me at vision, VISION, at bluemoonmanifestations.com and let me know what topics you would like to learn about or hear about or have me, have conversations about. If it's something that I don't know, I'm perfectly willing to, to reach out to my network. I do network, like I talked in my story, and have people that can help if that's not something that I am versed in. So I love sharing and connecting people and resources and just all sorts of all that good thing. There's plenty of goodness and abundance and love and having all the good things for everybody, for every single one of us to live our rock star lives. So that is what I'll leave you with today. I think that's it. If you have not joined me in the Moon Manifesting Rockstars Facebook group, head on over there. There's activities and new moon and full moon calls or live chats every month, and a kick-ass community as well. So thank you guys. That is what I have. Let's see, I need to wrap this up. So I will talk to you guys soon. Take care.